The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report. I'm Charles Firth.
And I'm Dom Knight on the day when everything was fixed at last. Because on the weekend, Charles, New South Wales Labor won a stonking majority victory in New South Wales, destroying Dominic Perrottet's government. And this means, Charles, that at long last, after about, 18 months or so, I am once again the most important Dom in New South Wales.
Oh, is that the reason?
Now,
right.
yeah.
Yes, no, I was assuming that what you were saying is we had now unleashed a new era of Labor wall-to-wall across Australia and that everything will be all right.
Oh, yes, that too. That's absolutely what's happened.
Yes.
Because unless you're unfortunate enough to live in Tasmania, you now live in a socialist paradise at both state and federal level, where all levels of government work in harmony to help you, the individual. And as Chris Minns repeated several times, because it's such a clever thing to say when you've won an election, and I think Albo said it as well, doing his warm-up, whether you voted for him or not, he's now your premier. And if you live in New South Wales, and I think it's supposed to be like a gesture of bipartisan openness, but it just sounded like a gloat. Whether you voted for me or not, sucked in, I won.
It also sounds a little bit like something Saddam Hussein would have said as well, like, as a threat to the two people who voted against him.
There's the headline for this episode. Chaser compare Chris Minns with Saddam Hussein.
Well, no, but the question for me is, how long before they disappoint, right, Dom?
I mean, did you hear his speech? Pretty fucking soon.
Well, no, but it actually, the disappointment for me, it was much, much sooner than that.
Really?
Yes, it was well before.
Before claiming victory.
Yeah, before claiming victory.
Seriously?
Penny Sharp on the... Anthony Green had just declared that Labor... Literally, this was about 7:59 p.m.
About 10 to 8 or so. He won.
Anthony Green says, Labor's across the line. They turn to Penny Sharp on the ABC panel, who's the head of the upper house, Labor Party in the upper house. She's also the shadow environment minister. She'll be the shadow minister.
She says she'll have that portfolio.
She'll be the minister for the environment. They turned to her and said, well, what are you going to do about the Narrabri gas mine, which is the next gas field that they want to open up in New South Wales? To which she said, it's going to go ahead. It's been approved. That's already been decided, right? And just sort of with a shrug and a sort of smug look of sort of, haha, got you there. The Libs already approved it anyway, so I don't have to do anything, right? Which was not a great look for an environment minister, right? To be sort of saying, yes, I'm going to destroy the planet. But what really struck me was, I'm not sure she quite understood that by being elected in government, she has now the power to change the decision of the previous government. You don't, what doesn't happen in a democracy is that everyone has to agree with everything that's previously happened.
Well, Charles, she may have the power, but she doesn't have the inclination, and that's the important bit.
Yes,
Have you learnt nothing from... We've done a whole podcast on the Tanya Plibersek environment minister period. And look, who knows where Tanya's heart is in these matters? Presumably, I suspect were she not part of the Albanese government, she might do things differently. But she is, and this is the thing.
And look, and to be fair to her, Tanya Plibersek has approved 116 gas mines since she got elected.
Although that was after getting appointed. Doing one before getting sworn in is pretty good going.
Yeah, that is good, yeah. But, she's 116 times less disappointing than Tanya Plibersek at the moment.
Oh, she's going to work on it. Give her a bit of time. But this is the thing, we've already been told, we've already learned what it means to have a Labor government.
Yes.
And
it means more pokies to rip off poor people. It means more gas mines and coalfield. Well, it means business as usual for the gas.
Oh no,
operators.
Charles, you've misunderstood Penny Sharp on that, and you've been very unfair to her actually, because she was asked about the pokies, and she certainly implied that it was great that something was going to happen about problem gambling. And what's going to happen is that they're going to run a trial on 500 of 90,000 pokie machines. Well, but she was then. She explained this, that it was going to be a scientific trial and very thorough. And I think it was Ashley Raper on the panel. Was like, well, it's 500 of... Like, what do you need to know? And she was like, it's going to be very... She just kept repeating how scientific it was going to be.
Well, the funny thing that Matt Keane pointed out was, don't you think that people will just go to other pokies that are not part of the 500 trial? Like,
Well, that's what the trial will find. That will be that's going to be the headline. The headline finding: if you only do 500, people will go to other pokies.
I don't know whether you remember, we discussed this on the podcast on Friday, and we discovered that there are a number of laws that need to just have trials run on them, including murder. Don't you remember?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
You wouldn't know.
You don't know. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Labor's going to abolish murder laws because they don't know and do a scientific trial about whether there should be a law against it or not.
Interesting thing, Charles.
Maybe
is
it doesn't work.
They didn't have a. Maybe they need a trial of just the odd gas mine, the odd gas mine here and there. Just don't approve them all at once, just to find out what happens.
Oh, I see. Oh, so we use their logic against them.
We've done centuries of opening mines and things like that. We're still not resolved. The jury's out on what happens.
So
when you have a mine.
So it's all profoundly disappointing, even though it should be a victory for the planet.
But Charles, there was no. I mean, did you see Chris Minns' speech? There was no soaring rhetoric at all. There was nothing grand at all. He was just he just gave a shout out to some political operatives for the first 10 minutes. To someone called the Captain, who did very well apparently, and then he basically said, "Yep, okay, thanks, let's get on with it." And
I think I was in the toilet.
The point,
when
well,
that
it's probably
happened.
the best place to be. But the most amazing thing about last night, for me, was Dominic Perrottet's very gracious.
Oh, it was
concession
very.
speech.
Yes.
It was a very kind, generous.
He
There were
acquitted-
boos in the room, but he shut them down and he said, no, he's a good bloke, he's going to do a good job. And the reason for that, there are two reasons. One is Dominic Perrottet and Chris Minns, they're quite friendly. They're similar. They're 40-something Catholic blokes
Yes.
who are professional politicians, and they probably like each other quite a lot.
Yes.
And the second thing is that Dominic Perrottet was well aware that very little will change as a result.
Yes.
If he's the opposition leader in the end of all this, Matt Keane's not running, friend of the show, at least to come on once. Nothing's actually going to change in New South Wales, and that's why it's an amazing sort of socialist utopia we wake up to, where Dominic Perrottet is pretty comfortable with what the new government does.
But don't you think that Dominic Perrottet acquitted himself with all the graciousness of an outgoing school captain? I think that's the air that he exuded.
There's always been that vibe about him.
Yeah.
And you and I did debate.
Maybe a bit young for a school captain. But
we did a lot of debates against Catholic schoolboys during that, and there's something about him that is absolutely of that ilk. But there you go. He came, he saw, he wasn't good enough,
and he left.
And someone almost identical, isn't it? And I'm sure if Chris Minns heard this, he'd be very upset because it's a fresh new start. even the phrase that Chris Minns used. How is it that by saying the words fresh new start, you can sound incredibly jaded and old and in no way innovative?
Yeah, I think, it sounds like something Ian McDonald, who on Friday got convicted of corruption and is now in jail for 14 years, would have come up with back when he was running the Labor Party. Anyway, let's get off this topic. I'm just aware that there are people who live outside New South Wales.
I just want one more thing I want to say. One more thing I want to say.
Okay.
And no, you haven't seen this anyone else. You haven't heard this from anywhere else. This is the key insight as to why Dominic Perrottet lost the election. If you look at his social media on the last day, do you know what Dominic Perrottet's campaign slogan was? Fresh New Start was Labor's, which I only found out 2 days ago.
I thought his was something about having a plan or something.
No, it's hilarious. Like the Liberal Party's big tweet on the day with the video from Dominic Perrottet: vote one Liberal to keep New South Wales moving forward. Dominic Perrottet on election day: Helen and I just voted to keep New South Wales moving forward. Do those words sound familiar to you, Charles?
Well,
moving forward?
Yeah, they are. Oh, my God.
That was the phrase that Julia Gillard used 24 times in one speech upon becoming Prime Minister. Those are the words you say when you're going to fuck up an election. They couldn't come up with anything more innovative than Julia Gillard's hilariously failed soundbite.
Wasn't it Mussolini who first used that as a political slogan? I'm pretty sure it was a fascist slogan originally.
Well, they were very good at moving
forward,
bulldozers and all that. Moving. At one point during that speech, I remember Julia Gillard said, "Moving forward means moving forward."
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
That would have had more meaning than a fresh start anyway.
It's true. So there you go.
Yep.
Wall-to-wall Labor.
Now, Dom.
Except Tasmania.
Got a little bit of a curly dilemma that I need to...
Should we keep doing satire now that the workers' paradise is upon us?
No, this is domestic. No. This
Oh,
is
okay.
domestic related. So I just got into a little bit of a. I wouldn't say argument. It was just more of a sort of stern talking to from my
Right, okay.
wife, right? Which was that Hartley, my 14-year-old, has this homework assignment, which is a terribly laborious thing about the Industrial Revolution. It just it's just like giving me PTSD about, writing history essays
Oh, wow.
on weekends. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Why would you
What the
need to do?
fuck is
Well, you don't need to do homework.
It's just like
This is the age of
outsourcing.
Chat GPT, Charles.
Well, no, but this is why. Well, no, but this is why. No, the schools have already gone to that, right? So they know that that's going to happen. So you have to write the essay in the classroom. So you have to write the essay beforehand, absorb it all, store it in your brain, and then regurgitate it again.
How
in
is
the
that going to be a
classroom
useful
for
life
the
skill? There's going to be
following-
no point in your son's career ever when he's going to need to actually
No.
come up with words himself in a room.
Well, I think the sort of thing is it is useful to know about the Industrial Revolution. Like at a level of actually learning history.
I mean, there's
But
a
yeah,
Wikipedia page.
the way they get them there.
Doesn't need to ingest the contents.
But it's also about sources. Anyway, but that's not the point. The point is, I don't know whether you remember, but they made a documentary about me back at university.
I can't believe you're actually bringing this up.
And
I cannot believe,
one
rather
of-
than us bringing it up to make fun of you, you're voluntarily reminding us about the TV show Uni. All of it available on YouTube. Check it out right now.
Do
it's
not
hilarious.
check it out. But one of the scenes was when Andrew Hansen and I wrote an essay for a competition, right?
Oh, yes.
And there's this very funny scene of Andrew explaining the process of how to write an essay, which is you just write it all down, and then you go back and you find quotes in texts
Yes.
that make it look like you've synthesized things, even though you've actually done the exact reverse.
Yeah, you
thing.
just say whatever you want and then make up the quotes afterwards. You don't want to actually acquire the knowledge in any way.
No, exactly. So, no, you just sort of
Just wing it
you wing it
and then come up with selected
Yeah.
quotes. That's right.
Anyway, so I was there busy sort of talking through this essay, exactly how to do it to like, all morning, like literally spent hours on it, right? And then my wife pulls me aside and says, Charles, you're just getting him to sort of make stuff up, right? Like you're just telling a great yarn about, make him tell the great yarn about the Industrial Revolution. He's supposed to be actually researching everything. And my wife's an academic, right? Like she's an associate professor. She was just appalled by me just sort of...
You're still writing essays the same way.
Yes, that's right.
Oh,
And
my God.
And so then, and I said, it's all right. And then I went upstairs and I said, okay, we've got to, but just been told, we pointed out that we've got to put at least 6 sources into this 1,500-word essay, right? So we went, I taught him how to do it. I said, you just Google the thing, find the essays that this is about and make it look as though that's where you got your information from.
So
No
for instance-
teacher's ever going to sort of do a reverse engineer, check
Right.
all the sources thing.
So you might write, for instance, the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution was a lot like the UFC.
yeah.
And that might be a long bow, but you find a quote.
yes.
And there'll be someone
About
out there who's made an
fighting.
analogy.
Yeah. Well, no, but like it just in terms of like facts, you just make up a fact. Like, I said to Hartley, I think it was probably about 3 million Africans were taken from West Africa and put into the Bahamas, and we looked it up, and it turned out to be 300,000. But like I always say, if you can divide something by 10 or times it by 10, and it sounds reasonable, that's probably about the right
Are you
amount.
getting cancelled for bringing this up at all, or for fucking up the numbers? I don't know which it's going to be, but you're more over than Dominic Perrottet. at this
No,
point.
but anyway, point is, I don't know whether what I've done is terrible in the form of sort of academic fraud, or is it just like I don't know, like that is to me how you write an essay. Like I'm literally passing on
your
the
ways
method
of faking an essay. Yeah.
and I did well enough.
Well, it depends. The question, I
That's through
suppose,
life.
does he want to be you, a sort of fairly washed-up 2-bit comedian,
Yeah.
doing tours around Australia,
Yeah.
but none of them requiring any actual research or knowledge?
No, yeah.
Or does he want to be like your wife, who's a genuine expert and has written books that...
Yes.
And I've interviewed your
Transmit.
wife
Yes.
about the things that she knows, and she actually knows a lot of stuff.
Yes.
It's
Heft.
based
She's
on
got heft.
examples
Academic
and
heft.
insight.
Yes.
So does he want to be
Yes.
her with knowledge, or you with chutzpah and very little to back it up?
You put it that way, and I feel really bad about what I've done.
But I mean, you should ask him because he might be a chip off the old block.
It sort of depends what psychological phase. We should ask Freud what he wants.
You know what he should do. What he should do is you should go back and explain to him. I'm sorry, I got this completely wrong. This isn't how you write an essay. What you do is you have an open mind and you go and read sources on both sides and then try and figure out what happened. Yeah. And he will correct you and then use as a reference the scene in uni, and that will teach him how to do academic sourcing. He'll write down uni documentary, whatever it was, 1996 or something.
Yes.
Charles Firth talking to Andrew Hansen to prove that Dad was wrong.
Yes.
In fact, the way to do it was the cheap and nasty way. But also, Charles... He doesn't have to be an academic. He could be a Sky News host. He could be a News Limited columnist.
Well, and just start. My method would be very useful.
Yes,
for
you just start with an immutable point of view.
Yes,
that no facts can intrude on.
Yes,
and then go back. Which is why Rowan Dean and the Insiders team, amazing reaction to the New South Wales. Defeat of
we should
the
play.
coalition.
Can we just play a little bit of it?
So Labor, let's see how socialism works. Let's see Australia. Let's see what this is like, this grand experiment. We don't want Labor. Now we've got Labor. Thanks, Liberals. That's what you gave us. Thanks, Matt Keane. Thanks, Dominic Perrotty. You've given us a Labor government. We don't want one. Woke has destroyed the Liberal Party. Only Peter Dutton can save it, and time is running out, let me tell you.
The only person that can save the Liberal Party is Peter Dutton, and the problem is they've gone to... Matt Canavan said the same thing. They've gone too woke.
Yes.
They're too environmentalist, because if you look at what Liberal voters want from the federal election...
Yes.
Hang on. No, that was Teals. They wanted Teals. No, let's ignore that fact. What they want is a more hardline, conservative, anti-environment position. That's the future for the Liberal Party.
Which would lead them to electoral oblivion, right?
I mean, it has.
Well, so what... Like, maybe Sky News hosts are actually Labor, hear me out.
Oh, hang on a second.
Labor Party operatives, or, progressive operatives who are working against...
They're sleeper agents.
They're sleeper agents.
I mean, that would make a lot more sense of Rowan Dean than someone who genuinely believes all the things that he says. But I read a very interesting article in the Saturday paper this week saying that this is what's happening, saying that News Limited and right-wing politics have merged their points of view so often that actually news is making conservative politicians unelectable.
Yes.
Because their whole perspective, as with Trump, as with the coalition in Australia, it's not popular anymore. Their own team doesn't want to vote for that stuff.
And that sort of works in America because actually most people don't vote in America. You don't have compulsory voting. So it's all about, can you get people angry enough to turn out? Whereas in Australia, everyone has to vote, to turn up for their sausage, which means that you get all these people who just go, that's crazy. I mean,
there have been quite a lot of elections now where the climate change is real side won, both in America and in Australia.
Yes.
And even in Britain, the Conservative Party is very much climate change is real. But if you watch Sky News or check out the Oz opinion pages or whatever, they haven't changed at all.
Yes.
So are they just who's going to win the argument?
The great thing is that the Labor Party has absorbed that lesson that climate change is real and has decided to make it even more real.
Well, that's probably why they're doing so well, Charles. They've managed to not only say the right stuff.
Yes.
And I mean...
And then take all the money from the gas and coal
come out
companies.
And say, there's Bayrush Bichani has come out and said that they've done this with refugee policy. They say all the right things in Labor.
Yes.
They're very concerned about people being left in limbo.
Yes.
They just don't want to change the rules. But they're very concerned, Charles. There's a human rights issue here.
The one upside of all that is it does infuriate the Greens the way Labor does that. The way they say one thing and do another.
Yeah.
And a Greens voter who's infuriated is just a delight.
Very
to see.
entertaining. And I mean, to be fair to the Greens, they are very consistent. They say one thing, get into Parliament, and then are unable to achieve the
anything.
One thing. But what they want to do doesn't change. It's just that they can't do it.
Yes, yes.
So there you go.
Genius. Okay.
Utopia. I think we should wind up the podcast, really, in this new Australia. Facts don't matter, as we've proven through your son. There's no crisis that Labor can't fix.
Yes.
Satire is over.
Yes.
It's been nice knowing you all.
It's a dawn of a new day.
Dawn of a new day.
A fresh start.
It's a fresh new start, unless you check your sources, in which case it's exactly the fucking same.
Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast Network. Catch you tomorrow.